time, election season, election talk. What is it that we are talking about? As you know, 2023, Zimbabwe is going for general elections, and so a lot of things are going to happen. A lot of political parties are going to come out. A lot of politicians, they are also going to come out and say, in as much as we differ on how to take Zimbabwe forward, we are the best, or I am the best person to take Zimbabwe forward. Hello and welcome to Slime Media. My name is Robert Tafmani. Thank you very much for joining us on this election talk program, where we invite politicians to come and talk about their political parties or their ambitions as politicians. What is it that they want to tell you and me? What is it that they have so that they can convince the electorate to vote for them and take them to State House? And today we have invited another politician to tell us more about himself or his political party, Reverend Harrison Ruben Simba. Which one is the first name?
Ruben.
So it's the Reverend Ruben Harrison Simba.
Bishop Ruben Harrison Simba, yes.
Bishop Zemura, thank you for accepting our invite so that you can come and talk much more about the political party that you lead. Before we get into the politics of the day, who is Ruben Harrison Simba Zemura?
Well, just in short, Ruben Harrison Simba Zemura is born in Bulawayo, a husband of one wife and 6 children. I'm very gifted and blessed with 6 children, and indeed a Zimbabwean. And also I've been in ministry for all my life, I could say. Now turned politician as well. So that is exactly who I am. I'm also a businessman, an entrepreneur. Yes.
To some, they say to come and lead a ministry. Did you go to school for it, or it's a calling?
No, for me, first of all, it was a calling. Then when my elders realized that I had this calling, they advocated that I should go to school for it. So I then went to school after. I was already in ministry, and then afterwards they, took me into, just be acquainted with theology.
So how were you called?
Well,
that people say, God is calling this person to lead this ministry.
Well, when I was young, I could say I lived a very much, wild kind of lifestyle. And so most of the time I would, meet a certain pastor, a friend of mine who used to come to my place, and you would, say, let's go to church. But church was not my thing, So one way or the other, we got acquainted with each other. And as time went on, he used to take me for services in his church. And he used to always say to me, one day you'll be a pastor. And I thought to myself, being a pastor is simply, just not for me. And so I used to think of pastors as these struggling people who are suffering a lot. So, for me, I would have thought maybe perhaps let me be a doctor and help people. So as time went on, this thing, grabbed me. And eventually I began, preaching in church. And things would happen, when I would be in church preaching. And so you would then come to me and say, you're called. So the next step I then took was to leave the wild life I used to live and, got into ministry full time.
So, just not specifically to you, but just in general, is leading a ministry a business?
Definitely not. I would say, just to answer you in short, it's a vocation, it's a calling. You cannot do ministry as a business. That's simply unacceptable. Yes.
Okay. Now into politics. You have formed a political party.
True.
From the church to politics. I know that there is politics in church, but now we are talking about a political party which you think can take Zimbabwe from where it is to the next level. Why have you decided to form a political party, and what's in it from the name?
Well, the way I would want to put it to you is this. I think politics found me because when I was young, my father was a great businessman. So I would see politicians in our house. This is where we met the likes of Dumiso Dabengwa, the likes of the late Ino Sinkala, and also the great man Joshua Mkabu. So these are people I would sit on their laps in our house, and we'll chat and talk about many things. So at one time, I remember vividly well, I was asking Joshua Nkomo, then he laughed. As a child, he just chases me out of the house, and I ran out of the house. So I would relatively say politics found me. It's not like I woke up one day and said, you know what, I want to be a politician. So at that time also, we used to move around because he was a ZANU-PF cadre. So he used to supply meal to ZANU-PF. At one time, when we used to come to Harare from Bulawayo, the whole truckload of meal, Fuema Pfunde, Energico, you would drive through and come and drop it off at the State House. During that time, it was President Mugabe who was the leader of this country. So, politics has been a part of my family. It's not anything new to me as per se. I have been so active in politics.
So, as a bishop, you know the day-to-day issues that are affecting people. They come to church, they praise and worship, and also pray and ask God, how has been the situation on the ground in Zimbabwe? The people that you have interacted with.
Look, I'll tell you now, to be quite frank, not only just as a politician, but also as a bishop, a leader, a pastor, it's quite disheartening to hear what the people are saying on the ground. Things are just not well for Zimbabwe. And Zimbabwe right now is not only on its knees, but Zimbabwe right now is actually sneezing. It's a sick country, and it needs people to come together and start it from ground upwards. And the only way we can find emotion going forward is when we unite as one people and we begin to interact not from a partisan level, but from a level of nationalism, knowing that we are first Zimbabweans before we are politicians. So Zimbabwe right now, just to answer your question, it's actually sick. We need to come together to ensure that we get our country moving forward.
So let's come to the formation of CCC, as I can see from the cape that you are wearing. Citizens Collaboration for Change. What's in a name?
All right. Well, I think that's a very good question. I've been asked quite a lot of times, why have we chosen Citizens Collaboration for Change? Now, if you look at the word collaboration, it means a people coming together. So this is exactly what we intend to do. We intend to bring Zimbabwe together so that we can all build Zimbabwe together, not looking at partisanship, but looking at the fact that we are Zimbabweans. So the word collaboration there simply meant that we must unite as one people so that we can build Zimbabwe together.
Yes. You now have a political party that you lead.
True that.
Leader. You have a congregation which you lead as a bishop.
True that.
Is it automatic that when one is a member of your church, is also a member of your political party?
No. It doesn't work like that. In actual fact, when I'm in church, I actually forget that I'm a politician. Because as you are ministering, in front of you there's somebody who actually supports ZANU-PF, which is not a crime anyway. And also you find somebody there who's seated in front of you who also supports Nelson Chamisa, which is a good thing anyway. So politics, it does have its place where you should place it. You cannot place politics within a congregation of different kind of believers who differ and believe in kind of different politics. So what I would want to say is you cannot take politics and bring it to the church. Politics has got to be done in its own field.
So, when was the political party formed, Bishop?
Yes, this was formed on the 28th of June last year. Yes.
And how have you been received by the electorate?
Well, look, people are really willing to go, and they are really, willing to come on board so that we can all build Zimbabwe together. But there's only one mishap which we have at this moment in time, where we go to the police and apply to hold our rallies, and you'd find out that you have applied, but they sometimes don't respond, or sometimes they respond but it's not to your favor. And so then you intend to ask yourself if this thing is loop-sided. because we see other political parties holding their rallies. And we are not allowed to hold our rallies for one reason or the other. So I think these are things that need to be addressed. If truly we are in a democratic state, I think these are fundamental key issues which we really need to look at as a nation.
So in terms of notifying the police that you want to have a rally and then you are not given the permission, is it you will not have followed the procedures or what? What are the reasons that are given?
Like I've alluded to you before that we have been applying and sometimes we don't get a response. Yeah. And sometimes you get a response but it's not in your favor. And you don't really understand why have you not been allowed to hold your rallies. And so what baffles us the most is that maybe perhaps when you're not given an opportunity to hold your rally, you find out that some other party comes into that particular place you wanted to hold a rally, and they go on and do their thing, and you're not given an opportunity to hold your rallies. So I think these are issues that we need to look at in this democracy. So
Bishop, from the formation of your political party, you've never participated in any election, be it a local authority and National Assembly?
No, definitely. Well, I for one, I don't think that's for me. I want the presidency.
No, I mean, as a political party.
Yes, yes. No, this is our first time.
This is your first time?
Yes.
You've never, even from the records that were done, you've never participated in those?
No, this is definitely our first time.
Okay. Why I'm asking this, Reverend, is as you've said, your party was formed last year in June, and you'll be turning one in a few months' time.
Yes, true.
There's already another party which is CCC, if I can use that abbreviation. Okay. I don't know how you call yourself.
Okay.
This party also is failing you, but some of the politicians have been in the field.
Okay.
Do you think it is going to cause confusion with your members in this one that has already been on the ground?
Well, that's a very good question. Look, we never came on board to cause confusion to the electorate, and that is not our intention. And so if we could sit down with our fellow brother Nelson Chamisa and have this fair discussion, I'll tell you now, we will change the name overnight. So it's not in the name. We have come into politics not over petty issues like names, but we have come into politics to ensure that Zimbabwe is up and running. So if the name be a problem, there's no problem, we can always have another name. So I don't think that's something that relatively we could be looking into now, since we've got a whole lot of issues that are lined up which need to be looked into in this country.
Yeah, why I ask that is for the benefit of both political parties. You are CCC and this one is CCC. Then if, as you've alluded to that, if it means sitting down and say what's the best way forward, because obviously from an ordinary person's point of view, having a CCC led by Bishop Zemura, a CCC led by Pastor Chamisa, there's a bit of confusion. But anyway, it's a debate for another day. So tell me, as you've said, you want the big post. You are contesting as the presidential candidate in 2023. Why, as Robert, should I vote for you?
Right. First of all, let's look at the issues on the ground. I think it's plain to see that our country is sick, like I've alluded to you before. And this is all being caused by bad governance. If you look at Zimbabwe, it's one of the richest states in Africa. But this country has not been run in accordance to what we have as a nation. If you look at how people are suffering, it really needs to be, addressed. And so the reason why one would certainly, vote for me to be president of the, Zimbabwe, it's because I feel that, the bad governance that we have today as a country can only be addressed by those who understand that which we are going through as a nation. People are suffering. I mean, I don't come from a plushy suburb, as others would come here and sit and say, I come from a mansion, so you have to vote for me because I got a whole lot of monies. Well, I sometimes, sit with my wife and discuss school fees for our kids. So I know what that pain is like. And I sometimes sit with my wife and talk, how many packs of Millie Meal can we buy to ensure that, the whole of this month goes perfectly well for us and our children? So the troubles and problems which Zimbabweans are facing, I understand them fully because I sometimes go through them myself. So what a perfect man to be voted into power than one that understands what Zimbabweans are going through. Like I'm telling you now, I don't live in a plushy suburb. I live in a high-density area. Sometimes I step out of my yard, and there you are. You meet the sewages flowing. And all these things sometimes can take place for a month or so without being addressed. So these things need to be addressed. Because at the end of the day, these things are not addressed, then we have a problem as a country. So I feel because we have a problem of governance, therefore then the post of presidency should have somebody in that office that does not overlook these things, but looks at these things to cover them, to ensure that the people of Zimbabwe are given a perfect life. So I feel this is my post. I feel it's a post I should have so that I can usher in the best governance because of our people. The pain that the people are feeling right now, I also go through it. So this is the post I want.
Yeah. Okay. So you said sometimes you also sit down with your wife and discuss school fees, you know, how much budget that you have so that you can buy groceries in the house and so forth. So probably you said to yourself, the only way to come out of our situation is for us or for me to get into politics, and it can take me to State House, and so that we won't sit down and discuss this issue of school fees. It will be taken care of by the government.
Well, that's a wonderful question. Well, look, you do not come into politics to make money. In as much as I've been a pastor for all my life, I could say, I didn't come into ministry to make money. So I believe that politics is a vocation. Well, there are some of the terms that people use at times to say politics is a game. You cannot be playing with people's lives. Politics is not a game. Politics deals with the lives of the people on a daily basis. And you get people dying in hospitals. Can that be a game? That can't be a game. So I have not come into politics for money. Well, as I've alluded to you before, that I sit down with my wife to discuss these things, it don't mean I don't have. It means that we will be planning a budget. And you cannot make it through. So it's not for money. I've come in because this is a vocation.
So come 2023, are you going to contest in the local authority elections, members of parliament and senators? Are you going to field candidates in all those?
Look, to be frank with you, like I've said to you before, that I want the presidency. For now, I think this is what we are definitely concentrating on as the Citizens Collaboration for Change Party, because I want to be at the State House. Nothing else and nothing more. So for now, I think, you know, if we can work towards that, this is exactly what we intend to do. And whatever then comes after I've won the presidency of this country, then we can discuss other things.
Okay. So it's a one-man bid?
Definitely not.
Yeah.
My whole team has actually agreed to that.
Oh, okay.
We have gone around and looked at people. You know, when you've been in ministry for a long time, it's like when you get somebody coming from another church, he comes in and then he begins to tell you, so the same thing in politics. You'd find out that you take people and you want to make them MPs and you want to make them councillors, but they've been around for quite some time. And so when you sit down with them, then you can hear that the dialect will not get us what we want to achieve as a nation. So I think, I want the firebrand. I want to work with firebrand, people of integrity, people who have direction, who know where they want to take Zimbabwe.
So, God willing, now that you've won the elections,
definitely
the next president,
definitely.
How will you choose your ministers?
Yeah, like I've said to you before, look, we need people of integrity. I'd sat down with my team before because mostly we have a team of pastors. And, most of them were saying, why don't we pick up men and women of God and usher them? Because we have not had politicians like that for quite some time. I believe, yes, they could be Christians on another spectrum, but when we are talking of Christians, we want staunch Christians, people that we can really rely on and know that these people are God-fearing people, because I believe politics has got to be for God-fearing people. So the criteria would be people of integrity, people that know that the people don't belong to them, but the people belong to God. And therefore, whatsoever happens to the people, they shall give account not to men, but to God. So that should be our criteria for choosing people.
But Bishop, we have seen also, Christians that people have looked at them and said, these are men and women of integrity. Some of them, they've been accused of misusing church funds. Some of them, they've been accused of abusing women in the church. Some of them, they've done unquestionable things. How are you going to say, okay, Robert, you are the right person to lead the finance portfolio? Because yes, you know me as probably as Pastor Robert Chakumani, but once I'm on that position, everything changes.
Right. Now, I think that one is quite an easy one, Robert.
Yeah.
Is it possible that if somebody made a mistake before, and there you come and you say, Mr. President, I have my CV here and I'm willing to vie for this job, can I then, take the mistake which was done by somebody else and, judge you with that mistake which somebody else made? Then we cannot have a country if we continue to do that. So this is no longer a time of finger pointing. It's a time to appoint those that want to do the job. And as we get along doing the job, then maybe perhaps if there are any mistakes made along the road, we can, find means and ways to ensure that, all those mistakes are done away with so that we can build our country going forward.
So take us on the big Sunday when you said, well, I've decided to be full-time in the politics in as much as I'm leading the church. How did you announce it to your congregation and how was it received?
Well, look, as per se, I would say that I have not stood before my congregation to announce to them that now I'm actually, entering into politics. But I've actually given the duty to one of my junior pastors who actually took the word to them to say, well, as you can see that the bishop is quite busy these days. He's not amongst us. He's quite busy because now he has turned to politics. So that he can also assist to bringing Zimbabwe together. We have had a problem lately in this country whereby if you approach politicians and you're a pastor, you were told that madi kunonamata wafundisi because kuna kusikwenyu zvamakuda kutaura izvazve politics azvichakwana kunoko. So now, we had to do away with that culture. By also coming into politics, which is, what I would also want my fellow pastors, those who are genuine and those who really love Zimbabwe and want to see it go forward. I actually implore them to come now and, be on board so that we can build Zimbabwe together.
Yeah, but one of the issues is, our followers sometimes do not question some of the things that we do in the church as leaders. Pane kuti zvataurwa musipo kuti muri kuona bishop mazana havasi kuuya kuchechi nekuti vari busy pane zvavari kuronga vafunga kuti vatore Zimbabwe forward vari mune zvematongerwo enyika. Pane here munhu one anobva muchechi wenyu wamunotungamirira bishop akati bishop kufunga kwangu inini izvizvi sekutaura kwamaita kuti vamwe vanoti mabishop madii kunamata uko hakusipei musingataure henyu zita. Pane here nhengo yechechi yakakufonderai kana kuuya face to face ikati bishop ko zvamafunga izvi ndezvipi?
Well, regai nditaure ndichitini vandadhumana navo vemukereke vari kuuya vazhinji vachona havasi vashomanene vazhinji kwazvo vari kuuya vachiti tinoona sokuti mufundisi matigonera chatingatoita ndechekuti tiuye tikubetsereiwo nemasoko atingakupei kuti kana mapindawo muparliament mosvika muchitaurawo kuti kuno kune zvakati nezvakati. Saka vari kusapota kwazvo kuti kana munhu waMwari apindawo munhaurwa dzematongerwo enyika tinowanawo mukana wokuva naspika wedu because we are voiceless as tinowana voice mamuri. Per se the church has not been supported even by government. I remember recently we were up in arms with government when they said the church should start paying taxes. So, it simply shows you that it has not really been supported that much. Saka, in short, people have come forward vachisapota kuti basa ngariende mberi. Mwari vavemo muparamende. Tinavo vanhu unotonzwa kunzi uyu akaba mari dzakati. Dzimweni dzenguva musavashora vanhu vaya kusatendeuka. Munhu kana atendeuka akunyatsotywa Jehovha mupenyu anoziva kuti mari yandapuwa iri kunzi inofanira kuenda kuma-disabled nema-blind people. Tikaona vari mumabhazi vachingomhanya-mhanya, ko vanombodyei vanhu ivavo? Saka rega nditore mari ye-social welfare nditsvage zvirema zvese tibetsere zvirema, which is what my government wants to do. These are things that we will really thoroughly take a good look into and ensure that the social welfare of this country is up and running. Because you cannot have blind people, marauding the streets, and you don't even know where they sleep and what they eat. And some of those people have got kids. And so if you've got a heart for people, these are things that one needs to sit down and look into. These are fundamental key issues.
With your experience in the ministry, is it wrong for the church to pay tax?
Look, I would say it depends on the state of the church you're talking about. Well, the current church in Zimbabwe is also a poor church. Looking at the inflation rate of what the country is going through, looking at the monetary policies that we have in our country, which I deem to be very poor, because if you also take a good look at what you are asking me now, if the church should pay taxes, if a civil servant is not getting a salary that is good enough for him or her, and she comes to my church, and I also say to those people, you have got to pay 10% or 20% or whatever percentages people charge in their churches, I don't know. But at the end of it all, when you are saying that putting a burden to such people who are not being paid anything, who are getting paid peanuts at the end of the day, I don't think that's moving the church forward. So now, just to answer your question, then where will that money come from to pay taxes to the government? If the country is not running well, then I don't think churches should be paying taxes.
But so, where is the money that we've seen church leaders buying these expensive cars and building mansions? Where is that money coming from? Are they not also probably stealing from the poor within that church at the end, so that at the end we say the church is poor, but the leader is rich?
Mr. Robert, in biblical times, history has it, that when you read the book of Revelations, it says they were there, those of the synagogue of Satan. So it's not everyone that you should be calling a pastor. Not everyone is a pastor, because we don't know where they are getting these things from. If you ask me, at one time, as I was in Bible college, we had a visitor that came from Ghana. And as he popped in, he says to a few of us, guys, come over, let me tell you, if you want your churches to grow and you want to make money, in Ghana what we do, we take a person and we put that person in a coffin, close him, shut him in for 7 days. As he comes out, he has conquered. Now the rituals that we do for that person, as he comes to the people, everybody begins to follow that person. So I then asked him, who have you done it for? He says, I've done it for a chap in South Africa, where I told him to buy a cow, a whole beast, and bury it under the ground, and as it rots and the maggots come out of the sand, that's the number of people this person begins to get in his congregation. So now you'd understand that the so-called church that you're talking about, there is the real church of Jesus Christ, people who have got people at heart, who don't want to siphon people's monies and so forth and so on. People that love the people because of Christ. And there are those that are counting heads of people to say, if I can get 100 people seated in front of me, today I can make $100, I'll charge them $1 each. And that's not the church of Jesus Christ. Church has got to be funded by the one who called you. If God called you, then your God must provide.
Okay. If you've got any questions for Bishop Zemura, please post them in that comment section. He will respond as time goes on. Bishop, looking at the Zimbabwean politics, individuals who come and contest, be it at local authority, be it as a member of parliament, be it as presidential candidates, they have not performed very well. What then makes you think you can perform better than those that have contested in the past?
Well, thank you for that question. Well, look, like I said to you before, if you're a God-fearing man, you are a different man entirely. God changes people's lives to understand that these people don't belong to you, they belong to God. So people sometimes don't have integrity. They are chosen, they are put in post, they are put in power, and they abuse that power. Now, if you want to take a look at what has been happening with 40,000 that some of these members of parliament got, none of them ever came to the people and said, I've got this amount of money, I feel like, you know, I should be able to assist you in other things which my constituency needs. And so this proves outrightly that people are just into politics for the sake of money. You know, it's politics of the stomach. And this is what has brought Zimbabwe on its knees. We are saying let's have people that have people at heart in politics. Let's have God-fearing people. So the difference I can usher into politics, I come in as a man of God. I do not fear anyone, but my greatest fear is I fear the God that has put me in power to ensure that his people are well taken care of. So it's all about God. Now, when you begin to fear God, you'll understand that these people don't belong to you, but they belong to God.
So, Bishop, if you don't fear anyone and you only fear God, it means when it comes to taking the national cake, no one can even say a word to you because you don't fear anyone. Just fear God. You can plunder this country, say, I only fear God.
Wow. Wow. Now, let's really take a good look at this.
Yeah.
When I talk of the fear of God, it's different from the fear of man.
Okay.
You know, sometimes you may say, I want to do A, B, C, D, and the congregates don't see me. Like what we hear at times that, you know, a pastor flew in, he was in a hotel, and he had 6 of the praise and worship girls. And on that Sunday, just went from the hotel straight into the church, blew into the microphone. Everybody receive it, and everybody falls down, and they say, here goes the power of God. So what I'm saying to you, men of God, is if ever you are a man of God, your greatest fear is God. He's the one that guides you. He's the one that gives you integrity. And so if you fear God, which means you are well aligned. Yes.
Looking at the 2018 elections,
Yes.
Over 20 presidential candidates
Yes, sir.
in the states in these elections. The current president, Emerson Mnangagwa, Nelson Chamisa, Love Mumaduku, Thokozani Kupe, Brian Muteki, among others.
Yes.
Assuming that all these, the 20 plus, you know, are going to contest again in August or July, September, or
Yes,
whichever date. Whom do you think is going to give you a run for your money?
Well, look, let's not take any, you know, presidential candidate for granted. Everyone in there, you know, they are in there because they know their story.
Yeah.
So it's about knowing your story. You know, why have I come into this race? What am I, you know, going to achieve? And what will I salvage out of it? So the most important thing is knowing your story. So I think, you know, everyone there is vis-a-vis very important. So everyone should, you know, be able to give us, you know, a run for our money.
Okay. We'll see on that one. So how has been your campaign?
Well, like I, you know, alluded to you before that, you know, everything kicked off very well, but we have a problem with the police, you know, getting police clearance, you know, for our rallies. We are really, you know, willing to do big things around Zimbabwe, but at times, you know, we are hindered by the fact that, you know, the police just don't give you clearance just like that. But so far, well, I'd say so far, so good.
Okay. So there's also a school of thought that it will be very difficult to dislodge ZANU-PF from power as individual political parties. The only way is to have a coalition of opposition political parties. Assuming that some of these leaders from different political parties come to you and say, Bishop, yes, we have seen you on the ground, we have heard your message. Don't you think you should step down so that you can have one leader contesting on the presidential candidate? Or they will say, Reverend Bishop, we have seen you, can you be our candidate, our sole candidate in the next elections? What would you take?
Well, look, Mr. Robert, I think, you know, relatively, this is all about Zimbabwe. It's not about, you know, any individual effort. So I can simply, safely say that if others came and we sat down and we all have the same ideology on how we want to take Zimbabwe forward, look, it's a simple thing. I would love to step down and have one candidate run this race and support that candidate, just as long as the Zimbabwean people get that which God has long intended for them, their freedom. I think that would be a wonderful thing.
Let's get into a dreamland, assuming that you have been elected and you are the next president of Zimbabwe, and we are in State House, we are having this conversation. What would be your 5 top priorities taking Zimbabwe forward? You know what Zimbabwe is going through. You know the challenges that this country is facing. What would be the top 5 things that you want to do as the next president for Zimbabwe and the Zimbabweans?
Right. I think number 1 would be, our monetary policies. I think, we really need to work hard at that to ensure that at least our country is, running. Right now, we're just consumers, and that sets us back a lot. So my number 1 priority should be the monetary policies. I think it's very, very important. If you look at our manifesto, we have what we have termed TEF, Turnover Empowerment Fund, where we say as soon as we step into power, every household here in Zimbabwe, father and the mother and the children, they are all entitled to 150,000 United States dollars.
Wow.
Yes. Now, I know maybe perhaps you will, ask me, how is this going to take place and where will all that money come from? I'll wait for you to ask me that question. But now, you need to understand one thing. We are in a state now where people understand that all the minerals under the ground belong to every Zimbabwean. No one has monopoly over the wealth of this country. If you look at Libya, Muammar Gaddafi used to give his people the monies that came from the oil. So he knew that this oil does not belong to him, but it belongs to every Libyan. And they had a wonderful life. So Zimbabwe can do the same. So we have looked at so many factors. If you look at people that were laid off from work, they were not given their pensions. If you look at our war veterans, they have got nothing to write home about. So we feel this, money should go a long way in creating, what we call generational wealth for Zimbabweans. So we will be able to give each household 150,000 United States dollars to every household in Zimbabwe to empower our people.
I think we should have elections next tomorrow.
Wow.
Because obviously we would not want 150,000 issue. For now, I can't even sit. I'm thinking, what am I going to do with that kind of money?
Wow.
I'm going to send my kids to university. I'm going to buy a house that I want. I'm going to drive a car that I want.
Right.
Obviously, this is a kind of, let's put it for another day. Because for now, my vote is my secret. But obviously, any normal Zimbabwe would want that kind of money. That's number 1 priority. Number 2.
Now, international relations. We need to, get back to the European Union as per se, because it's always good to learn from those who have, walked this long road before us. And if you look at countries such as America, there is nothing wrong with being friends on mutual basis. Look, these are great countries. So at the end of it all, I think, we need to really strengthen our relations and ensure that, we, come together and have strong relationships with, such countries. And, third one would be industrialization. So it's very important because that's the only way we can drive our country going forward. Without that, we can do nothing. So, because at the end of it all, we have been so lagging behind. So it's time now, we look into all these things on a vivid basis to ensure that, we begin these things and start them now and set the ball rolling going forward. So yeah, I basically think industrialization is very, very important. And also looking at energy. You know, energy is very important because you can't have productivity in any place if you don't have energy. You can't do anything without energy. So at one time, me and my team were sitting down looking at nuclear. Can nuclear do it? If nuclear can do it, so let's have nuclear. As long as our people are safe and we don't have any problems with nuclear, I think, look, I would vote for nuclear. So if they be green energy, like as we say, we need green energy, and we can get it up and running now so that our country can move forward, then let's have green energy, just as long as our people get energy. We can no longer continue this situation of living and groping in the dark, and our kids can't study well at the universities because we do not have electricity, and also, you know, we don't have productivity in our industrial places because there is no power. So these are things that really need to be, you know, thoroughly looked at. And, you know, with that said, I think we're on number 5 now, education. I think education is key. We want to ensure that all our people are educated. It's a must, because you cannot have an uncivilized nation. People have to be civilized. People have to know what to do. You know, I've heard somebody say the other day, zvikaramba zvakadai tinotora pfuti tigopinda musango. Okay, fine. Uri funga kuti pfuti yauchatakura iwe ko ikatanga kupfura iwe nyakuitakura uchagodini. So those are not ways of solving problems that we have in a civilized manner. They are ways to solve problems which we are faced with, you know, in our nation as it stands right now. So I think these are, you know, 5 pillars that I would really want to tackle as soon as I get into power.
Assuming that one day you receive a call from President Emerson Mnangagwa, say, Bishop, come over for a cup of tea. It's not bad anyway.
Right.
Zimbabweans and brothers, you can have a cup of tea anyway. And then he says, I've listened to you, I followed you, I've watched you. I think you should step down and support me as the president in the next elections. Would you do that?
Well, honor the invite. Would I honor the invite?
No. You have invited.
Yes.
You are now sitting.
No, he's asking me now to step down.
A cup of tea. As I said, being invited, like I've invited you to come to Slamida so that we can have a chat. Assuming that President Emerson Mnangagwa has also invited you to State House for a cup of tea, and you accept, which is good anyway, then the conversation starts. Then he says, you know what, Bishop Zemura, I think you should step down and support me only as the presidential candidate, so that the moment you leave the State House, now it's, no, I'm withdrawing and support President Emerson Mnangagwa as the presidential candidate for 2023.
Well, look, it depends on many factors. Look, has all the questions that Zimbabweans have been answered? If so, then I have no problem. Look, I'll tell you now, Mr. Robert, I'd rather prefer to be a pastor, businessman, and a farmer, because it's hectic being a politician. I've got some sleepless nights at times, thinking about a whole lot of things that are going on in our country. So I think this is a hectic job. Even if, you know, I were voted into power, I'll tell you, I can do just 1 term, and the rest spend the whole of my time with my family in my farm, because this is a hectic job. So now, if he had to ask me to say, I step down and let him go on as the president of this country, it depends on many factors. Has all the questions that Zimbabweans have been answered?
So, as we go to the end of the program, Bishop, how do you handle the question that coming new as a CCC, you know, Citizens Collaboration for Change, which is a name already in the playing field? They say, no, he's just coming to disturb the CCC that has already been there. How have you been handling this kind of question, or how have you responded to such kind of attacks?
Yeah, well, lately, you know, it's just a few people anyway that I've come across with such questions. Well, I've, you know, simply, you know, answered them. Some would say maybe it's in a sarcastic manner, but I think it's in a proper manner to say, look, we have more pressing issues as a country to deal with. We cannot be talking about names. What's in acronyms? So at the end of it all, we want to look at the most important things that we need to tackle as a country. We cannot be seated and, you know, in big offices and be talking about name changes of political parties that won't bring food on our people's tables. So I think we should, you know, be looking at the most important things that can move Zimbabwe forward.
Yes. So, Bishop, as we conclude, just in brief, tell me and them, I know you've said it, some have joined, I don't know.
Very true.
Why would I vote for a single presidential candidate, Bishop Zemura? What is it that is offering that I can say, I can put my X on the day of voting in front of his name? Why?
All right. Let me just put this in Ndebele as well.
Yeah.
Okokuqala ngithanda ukutshela bathandekayo lina abantu beZimbabwe ukuthi into esiqhakathekile kathesi yikuba sihlanganele sibe ngabantu banye siyakha ilizwe lethu sonke singabantu banye ngoba lokho belokho esikhombana ngeminwe ukuthi lo ulebandla lakhe lo ulebandla lakhe ngeke kuze kusize lokho sokuyisikhathi eside kakhulu abantu bakwethu besokola lingakhangela iziphofu lingakhangela abantu abadubekayo labantu abasezibhedlela umuntu angavela angene nje esibhedlela uyakuthiwa nje hayi ushonile usefile ngenxa yokuthi kakulamithi ezibhedlela amadokotela kabalazi into ezikwanileyo ukuze basize abantu beZimbabwe baphile ke thina sithi thina njengombuso omutsha ma lingasivotela singene thina kungalunga ke lapha eZimbabwe ukuthi ke bonke abantu abafisa ukuthi ilizwe liye phambili kuyaba lenqubela phambili ngoba ke silibandla elilalela abantu ibandla elifuna ukuthi umphakathi asizakale umthwakazi kaZulu abe ngumuntu ophila impilo yakhe emsulwa le ayinikwa nguJehova ke kuqhakathekile ukuthi ke lina ke mthwakazi livotela abantu abatsha abalama ideas amatsha abazafaka eParliament ukuze iZimbabwe iguquke sibe isizwe sinye kuNkulunkulu. Now udakuthi ndikutendei hamadzangu vese vari kuda kuti vabatirane nesu tifambidzane mubasa irori tikuti tivoterei nokuti toda kugadzirisa nyika iende mberi tariraone paunobuda iwe pamba pako unombotsika masuweji vamwe ndakati ndashanya kudzimba dzavo ndikawana wakabata maplace esadza vachidya uko nhunzi dziri kutenderera nenyaya kuti muyadhi mavo mune suweji yakanga yakaputika imomo zvinhu zvakadaro hazvifanirwe kutenderwa munyika yakaita sainoi saka imi kana moda kuti zvinhu zvakadaro zvigadziriswe nyika iende mberi voterai isu veCitizens Collaboration for Change Party vanoda kupinza vana vavo muzvikoro mahara nokuti nyika ino izere nepfuma nambotaura pano kuti tichapa munhu 150,000 munhu wega wega kuti atange upenyu hwake hutsva saka zvakakosha kuti imi kana mada izvozvo chitivoterai isu veCitizens Collaboration for Change Party vanoda rugare muno muZimbabwe bato renyu mariwana nemi vafundisi muri kunyangira politics muri pamapulpits muchechi regedzai izvozvo kunyangadza vanhu mumachechi chiuyai muti joine isu veCitizens Collaboration for Change Party titore nyika yedu tiende nayo mberi tinokutendai hama dzadiwa
aya isu hatina chekuwedzera kana kupisa vauya bishop vakataura vega vakapa zvikonzero zvinoita kuti muvavhotere vataura mitauro yakasiyana siyana ndinovimba izvi zvakwanisa kuti mumwe nemumwe ungange usinganzwe chishona ungange usinganzwe chirungu uchinzwa chindebele ungange usinganzwe chindebele uchinzwa chishona chete bishop vanyatsotsanangura zvizere iye zvinezvi zvinovhara nekusiya tapiwa munamato nabishop vachinamatira nyika yeZimbabwe pamwe iwe neni nekuti nhamo nematambudziko sekutaura kwavaita sepolitician vati aiwa vana veZimbabwe matambura asi pari zvino mweya unoda zoro bishop tinokutendai nekuuya kuzosangana
tinotenda Mr. Robert
hamungaendeka musina kutipa munamata
tinotenda
motivharira kune munamata
tinotenda regai tinamate kuna Mwari wedu baba vedu vari kumusorosoro kudenga Jehovha ndiro zita renyu rinoyera baba tinokutendai nezuva rino rinonzi nhasi matimutsa tiri vatano tiri vapenyu kuti Mwari wenyasha zhinji tigowanikwa tiri pamusoro peino yenyika yeZimbabwe tichikurukura nhaurwa dzekuendesa ino yenyika mberi zvino baba tinoisuma Zimbabwe mavoko menyu anoshamisa kuti Zimbabwe iitirwe zvakanaka vana venyu varwirwe muhondo dzavo dzose dzapanyama napamweya kubva nhasi namangwana nokusingaperi-peri ndinonamata kuti Mwari tibatanidzei tive Zimbabwe imwe chete, tivake nyika yedu tiri pamwe chete, tichitungamirirwa nomweya wenyu mutsvene, mweya unoyera, mweya unosema zvivi, ugare nesu mukati meino yenyika yeZimbabwe nokusingaperi-peri, muzita ramambo Jesu Kristu eNazareta. Amen.
Bishop, vada kuve members Citizens Collaboration for Change.
Yes, Papa.
Vanokuwana sei uye vanokuwana ikupi?
Right, maoffices edu tange tiri kunyatsomapenenzvera kuBulawayo kuheadquarters dzedu, takanga tiri paTrega building, saka izvezvi takuda kuti tinyatsoita kuti maoffices edu atekeshere, so tiri mbishi kutogadzirisa kuti nyaya idzodzo dzifambe zvakanaka. Tangobva Bulawayo tikupinda muno, tabva Marare tobata Gweru tichidzika takadaro. Saka for now, the best thing that people can do is to come on our social media platforms and also receive a number yandingava apa kana mukanditendera kuti vatibate pa 078 075 8935. That's an open line. People can use that line. Yes.
Vanotiwana kuma social media platforms. Kama social media platforms ikande pana slide media. Iba yamataura kuti social media platform yedu iri pa Facebook ere, iri pa LinkedIn ere.
Oh yes.
Nezita rayo rizere rekushandisika.
Oh yes, oh yes.
Click button apa zoti ndo pa Bishop Zemura.
All right. Pa Twitter tinoitwa collab1 pa Twitter, pa Instagram tinoitwa isu Citizens Collab for Change. And pa Facebook ndiyo Citizens Collaboration for Change. Nepa YouTube zvekare, we are Citizens Collaboration for Change. So on all those platforms we are found.
Tinotenda Bishop
Tinotenda.
Nekuya kuzotaurira vavhoti zvikonzero zvingaite kuti vakuvhoterei kuti muende kuState House uyewo zvakare mugovandudza ramangwana renyika ino kusanganisira nesuwo vatapi venhau. Tinokutendai Bishop.
Amen. Amen. Tinotenda.
There you heard it, viewers. Bishop Zemura vange vachitaurawo kuti aiwa nguva yakwana yekuti muvhotere vanhu vatsva vaendesawo Zimbabwe pane chimwe chidanho. Zita ndinonzi Robert Dafumani, ndakamirira chikwatawo cheSly Media. Tinoti ngatisangane panext program. For now, bye bye.